Welcome back to the Peak Performance Podcast. I'm Brad Young, and today we're embarking on an extraordinary journey through time to explore what it truly meant to be a peak performer in the ancient world. We're not talking about modern athletes or business executives today. Instead, we're diving deep into the lives of history's most elite military units, the warriors who defined excellence in their era, comparing training philosophies. Now that we've examined each of these legendary military forces individually, let's compare their approaches to training and see what lessons we can draw. Each culture developed training systems that reflected their values, resources, and tactical needs, yet certain principles appear across all of them. Understanding these commonalities and differences reveals fundamental truths about peak performance that apply far beyond ancient warfare. The Romans emphasized systematic, structured training with clear progressions and standards. Their approach was almost industrial. They had figured out how to reliably produce competent soldiers through a standardized program. Recruits, Tyrones underwent rigorous physical conditioning, including forced marches with heavy packs, running, swimming, and vaulting onto horses. Weapon training involved wooden swords and wicker shields, twice the weight of actual equipment to build strength and endurance. Centurions served as crucial mentors, leading by example and enforcing strict discipline, teaching practical skills from fighting to engineering. Progression was based on merit and performance and continuous drills with clear pathways to leadership roles. Psychological aspects focused on instilling unwavering discipline, obedience to command, and collective identity within the legion, often through shared hardship and repetitive routine. Failure was met with harsh punishment, including decimation in extreme cases of cowardice, but also with constant retraining to ensure proficiency. Their training reflected the needs of a vast, stable empire requiring disciplined forces for conquest and occupation, integrating combat skills with a strong sense of civic duty, virtues. The Spartans took the opposite approach, using hardship and competition to forge warriors through adversity from a young age. Their famous agoge, starting at age 7, was less about teaching specific skills and more about building mental toughness, resilience, and absolute unit cohesion. Boys were intentionally underfed, given minimal clothing, and encouraged to steal food to develop cunning and resourcefulness, though severely punished if caught. Physical training included wrestling, boxing, and brutal mock battles. Older boys, Irenes, mentored younger ones, fostering a hierarchical system of leadership and obedience. Psychological conditioning revolved around cultivating an intense fear of shame and disgrace, a willingness to sacrifice for Sparta, and an almost pathological disdain for luxury or weakness. Failure to meet the agoge standards often led to social ostracization. Their unique environment, a small warrior elite ruling over a vast Helot population, necessitated this extreme focus on martial prowess and unwavering discipline, blending combat skills with an austere, self-controlled character. The Persians focused on versatility, creating soldiers who could perform multiple roles, particularly excelling in horsemanship and archery. Noble Persian boys began training at age 5, learning to ride, shoot bows, and hunt. From 15 to 20, they entered a period of formal military service, emphasizing physical toughness, truth telling, and loyalty to the king. This included long rides, arduous hunts, and exposure to the elements. Progression occurred through experience and valor in campaigns, with older, experienced warriors guiding younger recruits in practical combat scenarios. Psychological aspects centered on fostering courage, honesty, and a profound sense of duty to the Achaemenid Empire. Failure was seen as a dishonor, often met with severe consequences, but also provided opportunities for individuals to prove their worth in subsequent engagements. Their training was shaped by the needs of a sprawling empire that required diverse military capabilities, from mounted archers to heavy infantry, blending practical combat with the cultivation of virtues like justice and self-mastery. The Macedonians under Philip II and Alexander the Great developed specialized training for their unique combined arms tactics, particularly the coordination needed for phalanx warfare. Recruits began rigorous drills, often as young men, focusing on handling the cumbersome 18-foot sarissa, pike, in unison, maintaining tight formations and executing complex maneuvers. Their training schedules were intense, often daily, adapting to seasonal campaigning needs. Mentorship was critical, with veteran phalangites ensuring new recruits understood the life or death importance of maintaining formation. Psychological conditioning ingrained a deep reliance on one's comrades in the tightly packed phalanx and an unshakable loyalty to their king and their unit. The environment of a burgeoning kingdom, surrounded by often hostile tribes and larger empires, drove the need for a highly professional and adaptable army. Character development was intrinsically linked to martial efficiency. Individual bravery was valued, but collective discipline and cohesion were paramount, as a single gap in the phalanx could spell disaster. Finally, the Mongols integrated training into daily life, making warfare skills a natural extension of the nomadic existence. From early childhood, boys and girls learned to ride horses, shoot bows, and herd livestock, skills directly transferable to battle. Their harsh environment and nomadic lifestyle instilled resilience, self sufficiency, and an understanding of weather and terrain. There was no formal school for training. Rather, it was an ongoing practical apprenticeship under elders and experienced hunters. Progression was organic, tied to one's ability to contribute to the family and tribe, and later to the horde. Mentorship was a continuous process within families and military units. Psychologically, their training fostered extreme endurance, adaptability, and an opportunistic mindset. Failure was often a natural consequence of their harsh environment, teaching lessons of survival and resilience rather than just punishment. This seamless integration meant their military skills were constantly honed, year round, regardless of specific campaigns, demonstrating a unique synergy between environment, culture, and combat effectiveness. Despite these differences, common principles emerge. All five forces emphasize starting training young, whether at age 7 for Spartans, in childhood for Mongols, or in youth for the others. They all recognize that peak performance requires years of preparation, not weeks or months. All emphasize physical conditioning appropriate to their style of warfare and environmental demands. All built unit cohesion through shared training and experiences, whether through the Spartanagogies' collective adversity or the Roman legion's standardized drills. All maintained high standards and discipline, understanding that a lapse in one could compromise the entire force. And all understood that training never truly ends. Even experienced warriors continue to practice and improve their skills, adapting to new technologies or enemies. Seasonal variations in training often existed, with more intensive drills during non campaigning periods or specific seasons, ensuring skills were maintained over long careers. For instance, Roman legions conducted winter training, and Mongol skills were perpetually practiced through hunting. The lesson for modern peak performers is clear. There's no single path to excellence, but certain principles are universal. Start early and commit to long term development. Build the specific capabilities your goals require, tailored to your environment and tactics. Maintain discipline and high standards, recognizing that collective success often hinges on individual commitment. Continue learning and improving throughout your career, adapting to new challenges and continuously refining your skills. Whether you're an athlete, professional, or entrepreneur, these ancient training philosophies offer timeless wisdom about the path to peak performance, emphasizing a holistic approach where character development, psychological fortitude, and practical skills are deeply intertwined. Comparing physical conditioning approaches. The physical conditioning methods of these five legendary military forces reveal distinct philosophies about fitness, performance, and the very nature of soldiery. Each approach was meticulously crafted to meet the specific demands of their environment, tactical needs, and cultural values, providing a rich tapestry of historical insights into peak physical performance. The Romans built well rounded soldiers with a comprehensive emphasis on marching endurance and functional strength. Their conditioning was highly systematized and scientific for its time. Recruits, Tyrones, underwent an intense 4 to 6 month basic training period. This included daily forced marches of 20 to 25 miles, often carrying packs weighing 60 to 80 pounds, equivalent to a fully loaded legionary. They ran, swam, and practiced vaulting onto wooden horses while fully armored, both from the left and right sides, mimicking mounting a horse in battle. Weapon training, particularly the Pala system, involves striking a wooden post with weapons twice the weight of actual battlefield equipment, heavy wooden swords, wicker shields. This built explosive power, endurance, and proper form. Their training schedules were rigorous and continuous, adapting to seasonal changes with more field maneuvers in warmer months and indoor drills or maintenance of condition during winter. Recovery was likely integrated through disciplined rest periods, but the emphasis was on constant readiness. Injury prevention focused on proper form and gradual progression, aiming to produce a resilient, reliable fighting machine rather than a specialized athlete. Progression was clear. From basic physical tests to mastering individual combat skills, then integrating into unit drills and complex maneuvers. While individual competition existed, the ultimate goal was collective efficiency and discipline, honed through relentless repetition and direct integration of physical conditioning with combat skills like building fortifications or constructing siege engines. The Spartans forged warriors through a brutal system of hardship and constant physical challenge from early childhood. Their famous agoge, starting at age 7, wasn't merely training, it was a total immersion into a life of austerity and physical discomfort. Boys were intentionally underfed, lightly clothed, and slept on reeds they gathered themselves, enduring extreme temperatures to build resilience and indifference to pain. Physical activities were varied and intense: wrestling, boxing, running, jumping, and brutal mock battles that often resulted in injury. They engaged in martial dances and precise drills with spears and shields. Training was continuous, integrated into daily life with little distinction between training and living. There were no structured recovery methods. The expectation was to simply endure. Injury prevention was virtually non existent. Resilience through pain and rapid recovery were key. Progression through the agoge was hierarchical, with older boys, Irians, mentoring and disciplining younger ones, and each stage presenting increasingly difficult physical and mental tests. Competition was fundamental, with boys constantly vying for superiority in physical contests and mock fights, fostering a warrior ethos built on an intense fear of shame. Fitness was maintained through perpetual readiness in their austere lifestyle, blending every aspect of their physical conditioning with the harsh realities of combat and survival. The Persians, particularly the noble cavalry, emphasized versatility and equestrian prowess. Their conditioning began at age 5, focusing on riding, archery from horseback, and hunting, all of which built explosive strength, hand-eye coordination, and stamina. Between 15 and 20, youths entered formal military service, undergoing rigorous physical drills, long marches, and arduous hunts, often covering vast distances and enduring harsh environmental conditions. The focus was on overall athletic ability rather than extreme specialization. Their training schedules likely varied with imperial needs and campaigns, but a high baseline of fitness was maintained year-round through constant activity. Recovery was likely less formalized than the Romans, but more ingrained in a lifestyle of outdoor activity and robust health. Injury prevention was achieved through continuous, varied activity, developing well-rounded physical capabilities. Progression was organic, based on experience and demonstrated valor in real-world scenarios, with older warriors sharing practical combat knowledge. While less focused on structured competition than the Spartans, individual prowess in hunting and martial skills was highly valued. Fitness was maintained during campaigns through daily riding, archery practice, and direct participation in skirmishes and battles, seamlessly integrating conditioning with diverse combat roles. The Macedonians under Philip II and Alexander the Great developed highly specialized conditioning to master their revolutionary phalanx tactics. Recruits, often young men, underwent relentless drills focused on handling the unwieldy 18-foot sarissa pike. This required immense upper body strength, shoulder endurance, and core stability, along with precise footwork to maintain tight formations. They practiced complex maneuvers in unison, marching for long hours with full equipment, and learning to pivot and advance as a single impenetrable unit. Training schedules were intense and often daily, particularly during non-campaigning seasons, to ensure perfect coordination. Seasonal variations meant more extensive field maneuvers during good weather and continued drills year-round. Recovery likely involved structured rest given the intensity of their training. Injury prevention focused on precise form to avoid accidents with the sarissa and build muscle memory. Progression was about perfecting the individual role within the collective, moving from basic sarissa handling to complex unit formations. While individual bravery was lauded, the focus was on collective performance and cohesion, where a single weak link could break the phalanx. During campaigns, fitness was maintained through constant marching and the physical demands of battle, with regular drills to keep the phalanx razor sharp. Finally, the Mongols integrated physical conditioning into their nomadic daily life, making warfare skills a natural extension of existence. From early childhood, boys and girls learned to ride horses, tirelessly shoot bows with incredible accuracy from a moving mount, and herd livestock, skills directly transferable to battle. Their harsh steppe environment naturally instilled extreme resilience, self sufficiency, and an innate understanding of terrain and weather. There was no formal school or structured training schedule. Instead, it was a continuous practical apprenticeship under elders. Recovery was often simply the natural rhythm of nomadic life, with rest interspersed with bursts of intense activity. Injury prevention was less about formal methods and more about developing an acute awareness of their environment and physical capabilities, learning to avoid unnecessary risks. Progression was organic, tied to one's ability to contribute to the tribe and later to the horde, culminating in participation in the annual Nurge or Great Hunt, a massive military exercise. Competition was inherent in their culture with archery contests, wrestling, and horse racing. Fitness was maintained perpetually through their nomadic lifestyle and constant readiness for raiding or warfare, creating warriors whose physical prowess was inseparable from their way of life. What's striking is how each approach was meticulously optimized for its specific needs, providing profound lessons for modern fitness. Roman conditioning built the sustained endurance and functional strength needed for their style of warfare. Long marches followed by pitched battles and extensive engineering tasks. Spartan conditioning created the unparalleled mental and physical toughness required to stand in the phalanx against overwhelming odds, emphasizing resilience over specialization. Persian conditioning provided the versatility needed for a sprawling empire with diverse enemies and terrain, focusing on a broad range of athletic abilities, particularly equestrianism. Macedonian conditioning developed the specific upper body strength, endurance, and precise coordination needed for their innovative phalanx tactics. Mongol conditioning built the extraordinary endurance, resilience, and unparalleled horsemanship necessary for mobile warfare across vast distances, integrating survival skills with martial prowess. For modern peak performers, the lesson is clear and powerful. Match your conditioning to your specific goals and environment. Don't just follow generic fitness programs. Instead, analyze your objectives and develop the precise physical and mental capabilities they demand. If you're an endurance athlete, focus on long duration stamina. If you're a strength athlete, prioritize maximal force production. If you're in a sport requiring agility and rapid bursts, train those specific qualities. The ancient warriors understood this fundamental principle. Peak performance requires conditioning that's specifically designed for your goals, not just general fitness. Moreover, consider the holistic approach. How does your physical conditioning integrate with your skills, your recovery, and your overall lifestyle? The most effective conditioning is not isolated, but a continuous integrated process that shapes both body and mind for the demands ahead. Comparing dietary approaches. The dietary approaches of these five military forces demonstrate that there's no single optimal diet for peak performance. Instead, nutrition must be adapted to circumstances, culture, and specific needs. The Romans developed a highly systematized and relatively balanced dietary approach, emphasizing practicality and sustenance for their legions. Their staple was pulse, a thick porridge made from grains like emmer wheat or barley, which provided sustained energy for long marches and strenuous labor. Alongside this, soldiers received hardtack, biscuits, dried vegetables, lentils, beans, cheese, and a regular ration of wine, often diluted with water for hydration and sanitation. Meat, primarily pork or beef, was provided when available, especially during campaigns or after successful foraging. Meals were typically few, often one main meal in the evening, supplemented by lighter fare during the day. Food preservation relied on salting, drying, and fermentation. During campaigns, fresh produce was often supplemented by foraging or requisitioning from conquered territories, while peacetime garrisons might have cultivated their own gardens. Hydration was primarily water, though wine was a consistent part of the ration, valued for its caloric content and aseptic properties, and as a morale booster. The Roman diet was engineered for consistent, adequate caloric intake and broad spectrum nutrition, supporting the legionaries' demanding physical role, emphasizing endurance and functional strength. The social aspect of dining was often communal, fostering unit cohesion, reflecting their highly organized and disciplined military structure. The Spartans embraced dietary austerity, not just as a means to survive, but as a core tenet of their warrior culture, designed to forge mental and physical toughness. Their diet was deliberately plain and functional, with the most famous dish being melis zomos, or black broth, a concoction of boiled pork, blood, salt, and vinegar. This provided essential protein and nutrients, but was intentionally unappetizing to outsiders, serving as a symbol of Spartan endurance. Grains, primarily barley, were consumed in minimal quantities, often as simple bread. Fruits and vegetables were scarce. Meal timing was structured around communal dining, the syssitia, which reinforced social bonds and military discipline. Food preservation was basic, given their landlocked location and focus on self sufficiency. Hydration came from water. There was no concept of special foods for elite warriors. Instead, the entire system was designed to make all warriors resilient to deprivation. Their diet directly reflected their broader military strategy, creating warriors who could operate effectively on minimal rations, endure hardship, and prioritize the collective over individual comfort, making them less reliant on supply lines and more formidable in battle. The Persians, particularly their elite soldiers and cavalry, often enjoyed a richer and more varied diet, reflecting the opulence of their vast empire, contrasting sharply with the common soldier's more basic fare. For the elite, the diet included abundant meat, lamb, goat, poultry, fine grains, wheat for bread, fresh and dried fruits, dates, figs, vegetables, and dairy products. Wine was also a staple. Meal timing could be more elaborate, with feasts common for high ranking individuals, though common soldiers likely followed simpler routines. Preservation methods included drying fruits and meats and cool storage for perishables. Hydration included water and fermented beverages. While the general army would subsist on more basic provisions, the investment in feeding elite units well underscored the Persian belief that a well nourished and content warrior was a more effective one. Their dietary philosophy, particularly for their core fighting forces, supported a strategy that leveraged resources and projected power, emphasizing the well being and morale of key troops and acknowledging that abundant provision facilitated long distance campaigns and maintained a strong fighting force. The Macedonians under Philip and Alexander adopted a highly adaptable dietary strategy essential for their ambitious, far ranging campaigns. Their baseline diet was relatively simple, centered on grains like barley and wheat, often prepared as bread or porridge. Dried meat, cheese, and olives were also common, providing protein and fats. However, a key aspect of their nutritional strategy was opportunistic supplementation. During their extensive conquests, they became adept at living off the land, foraging, hunting, and requisitioning local foodstuffs, fruits, vegetables, and different types of meat to diversify their rations. This dietary flexibility was crucial for maintaining troops thousands of miles from home base. Food storage involved dried and salted goods for long marches, but fresh provisions were sought wherever possible. Hydration was mainly water, often sourced from local wells or rivers, supplemented by local fermented drinks. Recovery and performance were directly linked to consistent, if varied, caloric intake, ensuring soldiers had the energy for forced marches and intense battles. The Macedonian diet underscored their military strategy of rapid movement and deep penetration into enemy territory, demonstrating that logistical agility and dietary versatility were as vital as tactical prowess. The Mongols integrated physical conditioning into their nomadic daily life, and their diet was no different, a perfect reflection of their harsh steppe environment and mobile warfare tactics. Their diet was almost exclusively animal based, relying on the products of their herds, meat and dairy. Staple foods included dried meat, borts, which was lightweight and nutrient dense, and various dairy products from mares, yaks, and sheep, most notably kumis, fermented mare's milk. Kumis was a critical source of calories, hydration, and vitamins and could be intoxicating. Limited wild grains or foraged roots might supplement this, but plant based foods were minimal. Meal timing was opportunistic and adapted to their continuous movement. Food preservation techniques were ingenious. Drying meat, jerky, making cheese, and fermenting milk allowed them to carry vast amounts of sustenance with them across great distances. Hydration relied heavily on kumis and water. There were no specific elite warrior foods, as all Mongols were trained warriors. Their diet was universally hardy and sustained them through incredible endurance feats. This diet was precisely what was needed for their unparalleled horsemanship, mobility, and ability to sustain long campaigns without relying on fixed supply lines, making their military strategy and nomadic diet inextricably linked. Comparing these approaches, we see distinct philosophies. The Romans prioritized structured provision for a disciplined, infantry heavy force. The Spartans used diet as a tool for psychological and physical hardening, emphasizing resilience over luxury. The Persians, when able, leveraged the wealth of their empire to ensure superior nourishment for their key troops, believing in the morale and performance benefits of good food. The Macedonians showcased unparalleled adaptability, turning logistical challenges into opportunities for varied nutrition. The Mongols perfected a diet tailored for extreme mobility and endurance, reflecting their nomadic lifestyle. Each system, though vastly different in its components and philosophies, successfully fueled empires and legendary warriors. The lesson for modern peak performers is profound. Match your conditioning, including your diet, to your specific goals and environment. There is no single magic diet universally applicable. Instead, learn from these ancients that what truly matters is alignment. Are you an ultra endurance athlete? Perhaps the Mongol emphasis on nutrient dense portable calories is instructive. Are you seeking mental fortitude and resilience to operate under adverse conditions? The Spartan model of deliberate austerity might offer insights. For those requiring consistent, disciplined output over long periods, the Roman approach to systematic nutrition is key. For those facing varied environments and unpredictable supply, the Macedonians' dietary flexibility is paramount. Focus on fundamental principles: adequate calories for your activity, sufficient quality protein for recovery and muscle maintenance, and a diverse range of vitamins and minerals. The specific macronutrient ratios or food choices are secondary to ensuring your diet directly supports your performance objectives and overall well being, just as it did for these historical forces. The mental game psychology of peak performance. While we focus primarily on training, conditioning, and nutrition, the mental aspects of peak performance were equally crucial for these ancient warriors. Each culture developed sophisticated psychological approaches that created soldiers with the mental toughness, discipline, and motivation needed for sustained excellence. Understanding these mental strategies reveals profound principles that apply to any field where peak performance is required. The Romans built mental toughness through a system emphasizing rigid discipline, unwavering loyalty, and systematic progression. Soldiers knew precisely what was expected of them through extensive training and clear ranks, instilling deep confidence in their capabilities and the collective strength of their legion. This confidence wasn't just individual, it was a collective belief rooted in superior organization, engineering, and tactical execution. Fear was managed through strict adherence to formation and the absolute reliance on one's comrades. Breaking ranks was far more terrifying than facing the enemy, reinforced by harsh punishments for cowardice. Stress management during campaigns relied on the predictable routine of military life, from daily drills to camp construction, creating a sense of order amidst chaos. Morale was fostered by intense unit pride, symbolized by the revered legionary eagles and standards, and a deep sense of duty to Rome. Communal dining, Shared hardships and the promise of land or reward upon honorable discharge also played a significant role. Leadership psychology involves centurions leading directly from the front, sharing the same dangers and discomforts as their men, thereby earning respect and fostering loyalty. Group dynamics were incredibly strong, structured into tight knit units, contuberny of 8 men, centuries of 80, where mutual dependence was paramount for survival. Rituals like military oaths, sacramentum, pre battle sacrifices, and triumphal parades for victorious generals reinforced a shared identity and purpose, transforming individual fear into collective resolve. Their physical training, long forced marches, weapon drills, was itself a form of mental conditioning, habituating soldiers to discomfort and sustained effort, demonstrating a seamless integration of mental and physical hardening. The Romans' genius lay in creating a psychological system that minimized individual panic by maximizing collective discipline in a shared sense of invincibility. The Spartans embraced a psychological approach rooted in extreme austerity, a relentless pursuit of honor, and an institutionalized fear of shame. Their agog system, beginning in childhood, was a lifelong mental training program designed to habituate them to hardship, pain, and deprivation. This constant exposure to physical and psychological stressors was their primary method of stress management and fear inoculation. They were trained to suppress fear through sheer will and brutal discipline. Confidence was built on the unwavering belief in their own physical and martial superiority, coupled with the knowledge that their rigorous training surpassed all others. Failure, especially cowardice, in battle was met with social ostracization, a fate considered worse than death. This created an extreme motivational system where the fear of disgrace outweighed the fear of dying. Morale was maintained through the syssitia, communal dining groups that fostered intense bonds and reinforced the collective identity over the individual. Leadership from their kings in battle was expected to be exemplary, but the system itself was designed to produce uniformly mentally tough warriors. Group dynamics were centered on the unbreakable solidarity of the hoplite phalanx, where each man's shield protected his neighbor, forging an almost spiritual bond. Rituals and ceremonies, while present, were subservient to the all-encompassing system of the agog, which was itself a continuous ritual of mental and physical toughening. Sleep and rest were minimal and often intentionally uncomfortable, further reinforcing their resilience. The integration of mental and physical training was absolute. Every physical challenge was a mental test, every discipline, a lesson in stoicism. The Spartan system created a warrior who was not only fearless, but also willing to sacrifice everything for the collective, making them formidable but at an immense personal and societal cost. The Persians, particularly for their elite forces like the Immortals, employed a different psychological strategy that blended status, reward, and a sense of exclusive privilege. Their motivation system was intrinsically linked to honor and prestige gained by serving in such a distinguished unit, which came with superior pay, provisions, and social standing. This created a powerful incentive to maintain peak performance and loyalty to the great king. Confidence among these elite troops stemmed from their privileged position, superior equipment, and often specialized training. Fear was mitigated by their role as a professional standing army with a strong sense of pride and camaraderie within their ranks. While less emphasis was placed on deliberate austerity compared to the Spartans, their well-being and contentment were seen as crucial for morale during long campaigns. The lavish feasts and rewards promised by the king served not just as material benefits, but as powerful psychological motivators, symbolizing the empire's vast resources and appreciation for its loyal soldiers. Leadership psychology involved the great king's absolute authority and benevolence, with high-ranking nobles commanding these elite units, often leading from positions of command rather than directly on the front lines. Group dynamics within the Immortals were built on professional excellence and shared status. Rituals would have included royal ceremonies and possibly specific military rites to consecrate their elite status. For the broader Persian army, a more diverse range of motivations would have been at play, including religious zeal, tribal loyalties, and the promise of plunder. While perhaps less overtly focused on mental hardening in the Spartan sense, the Persian approach for their core forces aimed to create motivated, loyal, and confident soldiers through positive reinforcement and the allure of imperial grandeur, ensuring optimal performance by keeping their best troops well resourced and highly valued. Sleep and rest practices would have been more comfortable for elites, emphasizing recovery to maintain peak physical and mental readiness for battle. The Macedonians, under Philip and Alexander, perfected a leadership centric psychological approach, leveraging charismatic leadership, shared purpose, and a blend of traditional warrior ethos with pragmatic adaptability. Their primary motivation system was intense loyalty to their commanders, especially Alexander, who famously led from the front, shared the hardships of his soldiers, and knew many of them by name. This personal connection fostered unparalleled devotion and a willingness to endure extraordinary challenges. Confidence was built through a succession of victories, the effectiveness of their Sarissa phalanx, and the unwavering belief in Alexander's strategic genius. Fear was managed by this confidence, by the strength of their formations, and by the sheer momentum of their conquests. Soldiers knew their leaders would find a way to victory. When faced with failure or setbacks, Alexander's ability to inspire and rally his troops, often through personal example or passionate speeches, was key to maintaining morale. He addressed grievances, distributed rewards, and never shied away from the dangers his men faced. Group dynamics were strong within their companion cavalry and the infantry units, forged through shared campaigns and a sense of shared destiny. Rituals included pre battle sacrifices and victory celebrations, often involving feasting and lavish rewards. Alexander himself often employed symbolic gestures like drinking from the same water source as his men in the desert to reinforce shared suffering and purpose. Sleep and rest practices would have been opportunistic, dictated by campaign necessity, but Alexander recognized the need for recovery and granted periods of rest and celebration. The integration of mental and physical training was crucial. The rigorous physical demands of Alexander's rapid marches and battles directly built the mental fortitude needed to execute his ambitious strategies, demonstrating that a mentally strong army was an extension of a mentally resilient and inspiring leader. The Mongols cultivated a psychology of extreme resilience, meritocratic motivation, and absolute loyalty forged by a harsh environment and a mobile lifestyle. Their primary mental training involved constant exposure to hardship from birth, riding, hunting, surviving the steppe, which made them intrinsically resilient to stress and deprivation. Motivation was a blend of harsh discipline, the promise of plunder, and a clear meritocracy. Any warrior, regardless of birth, could rise to command based on skill and bravery. This system fostered relentless ambition and a desire to prove oneself in battle. Confidence stemmed from their unparalleled horsemanship, their lightning fast maneuvers, and their string of overwhelming victories. Fear was acknowledged, but managed by the discipline of their highly coordinated cavalry tactics and the collective strength of the Tumen, 10,000 man unit. Retreat was a legitimate tactic if ordered, not a sign of cowardice, demonstrating a pragmatic approach to preserving forces. Failure to obey, however, was met with brutal punishment. Morale during long campaigns was sustained by the promise of wealth from conquest, the shared nomadic culture, and the strong tribal and family bonds within their fighting units. Leadership psychology was characterized by strict obedience to the Khan, who was seen as divinely appointed, and the pragmatic, ruthless effectiveness of their generals. Group dynamics were strong, rooted in family clans, Amegs, and later integrated into military units where mutual reliance was absolute for survival and conquest. Rituals often involved shamanistic practices and ceremonies, reinforcing their spiritual connection to the land and their destiny as conquerors. Sleep and rest were inherently integrated into their nomadic rhythms, with warriors able to rest on horseback or during brief halts. Their physical lifestyle, riding, hunting, constant movement, was the ultimate mental conditioning, integrating mind and body to create warriors uniquely suited for sustained, rapid, and destructive warfare. The Mongols excelled at creating a psychology of collective strength and individual merit, where resilience was the ultimate virtue. Comparing these approaches, common themes emerge while highlighting distinct pathways to mental peak performance. All these cultures created a profound sense of purpose and meaning beyond individual survival, whether it was Rome, Sparta, Alexander, or the Khan. All built incredible unit cohesion and loyalty that motivated soldiers to support each other, often to the death. All maintained exceptionally high standards and held warriors accountable for their performance, though the methods of accountability varied from shame to reward to brutal punishment. And all created cultures where excellence was not just expected, but deeply ingrained. The modern lessons are clear. Find profound purpose in your work or endeavors, cultivate deeply supportive and high performing relationships, maintain uncompromising standards for yourself, and implement accountability systems that keep you focused and improving. Mental toughness isn't just innate willpower, it's a developed capacity, a product of creating the right psychological conditions, systems, and environment that foster sustained excellence, just as these ancient forces demonstrated through their diverse and effective mental training systems. Lessons for modern peak performers. What profound insights can we unearth from the battlefields of antiquity that resonate with modern life? While the clash of swords and shields might seem far removed from today's competitive arenas, the core principles that forged these legendary military forces into successful machines translate remarkably well. Whether you're an ambitious athlete, a groundbreaking entrepreneur, a visionary artist, or a dedicated professional, the strategic wisdom gleaned from Roman legionaries, Spartan warriors, Persian immortals, Macedonian phalanxes, and Mongol horsemen offers an enduring blueprint for achieving unparalleled excellence. Embrace unwavering long-term commitment and systematic development. First and foremost, true peak performance demands unwavering long-term commitment and systematic development. None of these formidable forces conjured elite warriors overnight. Roman recruits endured months of rigorous training before ever seeing a battlefield. Spartans embarked on a brutal, institutionalized program from age 7 to 20, and Mongol children were raised on horseback, honing their survival skills from infancy. Similarly, modern peak performers must embrace this extended journey of dedication. Whether you're meticulously building a burgeoning business, painstakingly developing elite athletic prowess, or mastering a complex craft, excellence is not a destination for the impatient. It requires years of focused, dedicated effort. There are no magical shortcuts to the pinnacle of performance, only a relentless, systematic progression achieved through consistent, deliberate effort over time. Practical application, creating progressive training programs. This principle is fundamental to creating a sustainable path to mastery. For an athlete, this means periodized training cycles that gradually increase load and complexity, moving from foundational strength to sport-specific power and endurance. For an entrepreneur, it might involve phased business development from market research and MVP launch to scaling operations and optimizing processes. A creative professional could structure their development around mastering basic techniques, then experimenting with advanced forms, and finally developing a unique style. The key is to avoid stagnation. Constantly seek slight, manageable increases in challenge. Review your progress regularly, celebrate small victories, and adjust your program as needed to maintain forward momentum without risking burnout. Establishing sustainable habits. Systematic development is powered by consistent, sustainable habits. Break down your grand ambitions into daily or weekly actions that are achievable. For instance, if you aim to write a novel, commit to 500 words every morning. If you're building a new skill, dedicate 30 minutes daily to deliberate practice. Use habit stacking, e.g., after your morning coffee, do 10 minutes of meditation. Or environmental design, e.g., place your workout clothes next to your bed to make desired actions easier and less reliant on willpower. The goal is to make progress inevitable even on days when motivation wanes. Overcoming obstacles, impatience, and stagnation. Modern life often promotes instant gratification, making the long-term commitment feel daunting. Combat impatience by focusing on process goals rather than solely outcome goals. Celebrate the consistency of your effort. To avoid stagnation, actively seek out new challenges, mentors, or learning opportunities once you've mastered a particular level. The ancient warriors understood that the pursuit of excellence was a continuous journey, not a fixed destination. 2. Design acutely specific training regimens. Second, your training regimen must be acutely specific to your overarching goals. Each ancient military power meticulously crafted conditioning and skills precisely suited to their unique style of warfare. Roman legions built their legendary endurance through grueling marches, perfecting their ability to cover vast distances. Spartans forged their bodies for the brutal, close quarters demands of phalanx combat. Macedonian soldiers developed immense strength to wield the formidable sarissa, their impossibly long pikes. And Mongol warriors honed unparalleled riding endurance, spending days virtually living in the saddle. Just as they tailored their preparation, modern peak performers must precisely align their training with their specific objectives. Don't merely work hard, work strategically and specifically on the exact capabilities your ambitions demand. Pinpoint the critical skills and physical attributes essential for triumph in your chosen field, then meticulously design your training to cultivate those precise strengths. Practical application, deliberate practice, and goal decomposition. Begin by clearly defining the ultimate objective. For an athlete, this might be excelling in a specific event. For a business leader, it could be increasing market share. Then decompose this goal into the specific skills and knowledge required. For example, a software developer aiming to build complex applications needs to practice specific coding languages, design patterns, and debugging techniques, not just general programming. Implement deliberate practice, which involves focused, repetitive engagement with tasks just beyond your current capability, coupled with immediate feedback. For a public speaker, this means recording and reviewing presentations, not just giving them. For a musician, it's isolating difficult passages and practicing them slowly and precisely. This targeted approach ensures every unit of effort contributes directly to your peak performance goals. Leveraging adjacent skills. Beyond core skills, consider adjacent or supporting skills. Just as Roman legions used engineering prowess for fortifications and logistics, modern performers can benefit from related disciplines. A painter might study anatomy or color theory. An entrepreneur might delve into psychology to better understand customer behavior. These peripheral skills often provide unexpected leverage and a deeper understanding of the primary domain, enhancing overall effectiveness and adaptability. Overcoming obstacles, generic training, and lack of focus. A common pitfall is engaging in busy work or generic training that doesn't directly contribute to specific goals. Continuously ask, is this activity directly improving the skill or attribute most critical for my primary objective? If the answer is no, reevaluate. The ancient warriors were brutally efficient in their training. Their survival depended on it. Modern performers can emulate this by cultivating a similar ruthless focus on relevance and impact in their development. 3. Prioritize foundational nutritional principles. Third, while nutrition is undeniably crucial, there isn't a single, universally optimal approach. These 5 diverse forces achieved astounding peak physical performance on vastly different diets, from the Roman soldiers' grain-heavy rations to the Mongol warriors' diet rich in meat and dairy. The undeniable commonality was that each dietary strategy consistently provided adequate calories, protein, and vital nutrients to fuel their demanding needs. Modern peak performers should therefore anchor their focus on foundational nutritional principles rather than chasing fleeting dietary fads. Ensure you are consuming enough fuel to power your activities, ingesting sufficient protein for robust recovery, and prioritizing nutrient-dense whole foods. The specific culinary path you choose matters far less than consistently meeting these fundamental biological requirements for sustained high performance. Practical application. Beyond just food, hydration, and sleep, peak physical and mental performance relies on more than just food. Adequate hydration is critical for cognitive function, physical endurance, and nutrient transport. Make water your primary beverage and consume it consistently throughout the day. Equally important and often overlooked is sleep. The ancient warriors, while often enduring harsh conditions, also recognized the need for recovery. Sleep is when your body repairs, consolidates memories, and processes emotions. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep nightly and consider optimizing your sleep environment dark, cool, quiet, and routine to maximize its restorative power. For demanding professions, strategic naps can also be a powerful tool for maintaining mental acuity. Consistency over perfection. Instead of chasing restrictive fad diets, focus on making consistent, healthy choices that you can sustain long term. This means meal prepping. When possible, making smart choices when eating out and understanding your body's specific needs related to energy expenditure and recovery. For someone in a high stress role, having healthy snacks readily available can prevent reaching for less optimal choices. The goal is to fuel your body reliably, not to achieve dietary asceticism. Overcoming obstacles, trendy diets, and stress related eating. The modern world bombards us with conflicting nutritional advice. Filter out the noise by returning to the fundamentals: adequate calories, protein, healthy fats, fiber, vitamins, and minerals from whole foods. Address stress related eating or poor nutritional choices by building awareness around your triggers and developing alternative coping mechanisms. The discipline of fueling your body optimally is a non negotiable component of sustained peak performance, mirroring the ancient warrior's practical approach to sustenance. 4. Cultivate mental toughness and unyielding discipline. Fourth, and perhaps most critically, mental toughness and unyielding discipline are every bit as vital as physical capabilities. All 5 of these ancient powers meticulously developed sophisticated psychological frameworks that cultivated warriors who could not only perform under unimaginable pressure, but also persist through brutal adversity, maintaining their unwavering standards even when utterly exhausted. Modern peak performers require an identical caliber of mental fortitude. Cultivate iron discipline through the deliberate practice of consistent, non negotiable habits. Forge profound resilience by actively embracing challenging situations, viewing them as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. Implement robust accountability systems that relentlessly keep you on track, ensuring you adhere to your commitments. And perhaps most powerfully, unearth and connect with a deep sense of purpose and meaning in your work that ignites your motivation far beyond mere immediate comfort. Practical application: developing mental resilience techniques. The Spartans were masters of stress inoculation, habitually exposing themselves to hardship. Modern peak performers can adapt this by intentionally seeking out discomfort or challenging situations in a controlled environment. This could involve cold showers, intense workouts, or taking on a project slightly outside your comfort zone. Practice mindfulness and meditation to improve focus, emotional regulation, and stress response. Visualization techniques used by many elite athletes can mentally rehearse success and build confidence. Learning to reframe setbacks as learning opportunities rather than failures is a powerful resilience builder, transforming adversity into growth, much like the Mongols' pragmatic view on tactical retreats. Building systems for accountability. Just as ancient armies had strict hierarchies and peer pressure, modern performers thrive with accountability. Share your goals publicly with a trusted mentor, coach, or peer group. Set up regular check ins. Use tracking apps or journals to monitor your progress and consistency. For a business team, this could be daily stand ups and clear KPIs. For an individual, it might be a commitment to a workout partner or a public declaration of a creative project deadline. The external pressure of accountability can be a powerful antidote to procrastination and self doubt, reinforcing the discipline required to stay on track. Connecting with purpose and overcoming obstacles. The Roman legionary fought for Rome, the Spartan for honor, the Macedonian for Alexander's vision, and the Mongol for their Khan and expansion. All were driven by a purpose far grander than themselves. Identify your why. Why are you pursuing this goal? What impact do you want to make? Connect with this deeper meaning daily through journaling, affirmations, or simply reflecting on your mission statement. This profound sense of purpose acts as an inexhaustible fuel source, especially when facing obstacles like self-doubt, fear of failure, or the seductive pull of distraction. When the path gets tough, your purpose will remind you why you started, enabling you to persist where others would falter. Remember, peak performance is not simply a physical feat. It is profoundly, intrinsically a mental triumph. 5. Embrace adaptability and learn from setbacks. Finally, these ancient forces were not static. They evolved and adapted. The Macedonians revolutionized warfare with the sarissa and combined arms tactics. The Mongols constantly refined their cavalry strategies. Modern peak performers must similarly cultivate a mindset of continuous learning and adaptation. The competitive landscape, technology, and even personal circumstances are constantly changing. Those who rigidly adhere to outdated methods will be left behind. Practical application, continuous improvement, and post-mortem analysis. Regularly review your strategies, performance, and outcomes. After a project in business or creative pursuits, or a competition in athletics, conduct a post-mortem analysis. What worked? What didn't? What could be improved next time? This isn't about dwelling on failures, but extracting valuable lessons. The Romans meticulously studied their enemies and adapted their tactics accordingly. For a modern performer, this means staying curious, being open to new ideas, and being willing to pivot or refine your approach when evidence suggests a better path. Embrace a growth mindset, understanding that your abilities are not fixed but can be developed through dedication and hard work. Overcoming obstacles. Fear of change and attachment to old ways. Change can be uncomfortable, and there's a natural human tendency to cling to what's familiar. However, the world of peak performance demands agility. Practice intentionally stepping outside your comfort zone in small ways to build your capacity for adaptation. Stay informed about trends and innovations in your field. By seeing change as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat, you embody the dynamic resilience that allowed ancient military powers to dominate their eras. The common thread: systems over individuals. One of the most important lessons from these ancient military forces is that peak performance comes from systems, not just individual talent. While each force had exceptional individual warriors, their success came from creating systems that reliably produced excellence. The Romans didn't depend on finding naturally gifted soldiers, they had a training system that could transform ordinary men into effective legionaries. The Spartans created warriors through their agog system, not through genetic superiority. The Persians, Macedonians, and Mongols similarly achieved excellence through systematic approaches rather than just individual ability. This is perhaps the most important lesson for modern peak performers. Don't rely on talent or motivation alone. Create systems that support consistent excellence. Develop training routines that you follow regardless of how you feel. Build habits that automate good decisions. Create environments that make success easier and failure harder. Establish accountability mechanisms that keep you on track. The ancient warriors understood that individual willpower is unreliable, but good systems produce consistent results. How ancient powers systematized excellence. The historical records reveal fascinating and often brutal methods through which these legendary forces engineered their superior capabilities. Their genius lay not in finding extraordinary individuals, but in establishing repeatable processes that elevated the collective. The Roman legion, standardization, and engineering. Standardized training protocols. Roman recruits underwent a grueling 4-month basic training, tirocinium, regardless of prior experience. This included daily marches with heavy packs, weapon drills with wooden swords against posts, palace, and engineering tasks like building fortifications. The emphasis was on consistency, discipline, and endurance, turning diverse recruits into a cohesive fighting unit. Logistical and engineering systems. Beyond combat, Roman legions were master builders. Their systematic construction of roads, bridges, and temporary camps, castra, not only facilitated rapid movement, but also ensured soldier welfare and supply lines, reducing fatigue and disease, critical components of sustained performance. Hierarchical structure and discipline. A clear chain of command, from the centurion to the legate, ensured orders were executed precisely. Punishments and rewards, e.g., decimation for cowardice, civic crowns for bravery, were systematically applied to reinforce discipline and morale. The Spartan agog, total immersion in warrior culture, birth to adulthood conditioning. The Agog was a state controlled education system that began at age 7. Boys were removed from their families to live in barracks, undergoing intense physical, mental, and moral training. This included strict discipline, sparse rations, constant physical challenges, and training in stealth and combat, communal living, and peer accountability. Spartans lived communally throughout much of their lives, fostering fierce loyalty to their unit and state. Peer pressure and collective responsibility were integral to the system, ensuring no individual could falter without impacting the group. Focused combat training. Every aspect of the Agog was geared towards creating the ultimate hoplite, specializing in the phalanx formation. This hyper-specific training eliminated distractions and cultivated unparalleled proficiency in their chosen combat style. The Persian Immortals, elite selection, and sustained readiness. Rigorous selection and lifelong service. The Immortals were an elite force selected for their physical prowess, loyalty, and skill. They were expected to serve for life, ensuring a continuous pool of highly experienced and dedicated warriors. Superior equipment and support. They received the best available equipment, distinctive attire, and were supported by a dedicated retinue of servants and baggage trains. This logistical support allowed them to remain in peak condition during extended campaigns. Combined arms integration. The Immortals were often deployed alongside other specialized units, demonstrating a systematic approach to warfare that leveraged diverse strengths through coordinated tactics, ensuring comprehensive battlefield dominance. The Macedonian Phalanx. Tactical innovation and cohesion. The Sarissa and intensive drills. Philip II and Alexander the Great revolutionized warfare with the Sarissa, a massive pike requiring immense strength and coordination to wield. Soldiers trained relentlessly to maintain the phalanx formation, moving as a single impenetrable unit. Combined arms doctrine. Macedonian success came from systematically integrating the phalanx with cavalry, archers, and light infantry. Each component was trained to understand its role within the larger tactical system, allowing for flexible and devastating maneuvers. Leadership development. Alexander's officers were not just chosen for bravery, but also for their tactical understanding and ability to lead. The system fostered leaders capable of executing complex strategies and adapting to battlefield changes. The Mongol horsemen, mobility, meritocracy, and communication. Cavalry-centric lifestyle and training. Mongol children learned to ride and shoot from an early age, integrating military skills into daily life. Their entire society was structured around supporting a highly mobile cavalry, from diet, kumis and dried meat, to equipment. Merit-based system. Promotion within the Mongol army was based purely on merit and performance, not noble birth. This systematic incentive structure ensured that the most capable individuals rose through the ranks, driving continuous improvement. Rapid communication and coordination. An advanced postal system, YAM, allowed for swift communication across their vast empire, enabling rapid deployment and coordination of forces. Messengers could cover hundreds of miles a day, ensuring tactical and strategic coherence. Building modern systems for peak performance. For modern peak performers, the message is clear. Invest in building robust systems, not just in trying harder. This means consciously designing your approach to work, personal development, and well-being. 1. Designing training protocols. Structured learning paths. Break down complex skills into manageable sequential steps. For an athlete, this means periodized training. For a professional, a clear curriculum for continuous learning. Deliberate practice. Focus on specific weaknesses, receive immediate feedback, and iterate. This could involve coding challenges, mock presentations, or critical reviews of creative work. Routine and consistency. Establish non-negotiable times for practice or skill development. Automate these routines so they require minimal willpower. 2. Creating accountability structures. Mentorship and coaching. Engage with experienced individuals who can provide guidance, constructive feedback, and hold you to your commitments. Peer groups and masterminds. Join communities of like-minded individuals for mutual support, idea sharing, and collective goal setting. Public commitments. Share your goals with others. The social pressure can be a powerful motivator. Tracking and reporting. Use journals, apps, or regular check ins to monitor progress against your systems and goals. 3. Establishing measurement systems. Key performance indicators, KPIs, define clear, quantifiable metrics that indicate progress towards your goals. Are you increasing sales conversions, improving code efficiency, or reducing race times? Feedback loops. Implement mechanisms for consistent feedback, both qualitative and quantitative. This could be monthly performance reviews, automated code tests, or user surveys. Regular review. Schedule dedicated time to review your data, analyze what's working and what isn't, and make informed adjustments. 4. Building supportive environments. Physical environment. Optimize your workspace to minimize distractions and facilitate focus. Ensure you have the right tools and resources. Digital environment. Streamline your digital tools, manage notifications, and organize your files and projects efficiently. Cultural environment. Surround yourself with people who share your values, encourage growth, and challenge you constructively. Remove negative influences that detract from your goals. Common system failures and how to avoid them. Even the best systems can falter. Awareness of common pitfalls is key to building resilient structures. Rigidity. Systems designed to be too inflexible can break under changing conditions. Avoid by building in checkpoints for review and adaptation. Focusing on inputs over outputs. A system that prioritizes activity inputs over results outputs is inefficient. Ensure your measurement systems are tracking meaningful outcomes. Lack of feedback. Without timely and accurate feedback, systems can drift off course. Implement clear, frequent feedback loops. Complexity. Overly complicated systems are hard to maintain. Strive for simplicity and elegance in design. Ignoring human factor. Systems must account for human psychology and motivation. Build in elements of recognition, purpose, and autonomy. The role of leadership in system implementation. Just as ancient generals shaped their armies, modern leaders are crucial for successful system implementation, vision, and communication. Leaders articulate the why behind the system, ensuring everyone understands its purpose and value. Consistency and modeling. Leaders must consistently adhere to the system themselves, setting an example for others. Fostering a culture of excellence. Leaders cultivate an environment where systematic improvement and accountability are valued and rewarded, making adherence to the system a shared norm. Adapting systems as you progress. No system is static. As you grow and circumstances change, your systems must evolve. Continuous improvement mindset. Embrace the idea that every system can be refined. Regularly ask, how can this be better? Iterative development. Don't wait for perfection. Implement a system, gather feedback, and make incremental improvements over time. Scalability. Design systems with future growth in mind. Will this process still work when your team doubles or your project scope expands? Concrete examples of modern systems. Professional sports teams. Elite athletic organizations use sophisticated systems for player development, nutrition, injury prevention, scouting, and game strategy. Think of the Moneyball approach in baseball, systematic data analysis in soccer, or comprehensive recovery protocols in the NFL. High-performing businesses. Companies like Toyota with its lean manufacturing and Kaizen continuous improvement system, Google with its OKRs for goal setting and performance management, or Amazon with its rigorous data-driven decision-making, exemplify systematic excellence. Artistic collectives, studios, successful creative ventures often have systems for project management, collaborative feedback, skill sharing, and consistent output, even if they appear chaotic from the outside. Actionable steps for implementing systematic approaches. To begin building your own systems for peak performance, consider these steps. Identify your core goals. What is the one major outcome you want to achieve? Break it down. Deconstruct this goal into the specific skills, habits, and knowledge required. Design a simple system. Create a basic, repeatable routine or process for one key area. For example, a morning routine, a weekly planning session, or a specific practice drill. Implement and track. Consistently follow your system and meticulously track your adherence and initial results. Review and refine. Regularly, e.g., weekly or monthly, analyze your data. What's working? What's not? How can you simplify or improve the system? Scale up. Once a small system is working, gradually expand it to other areas of your life or work, building a comprehensive network of supportive systems. The ancient warriors knew that individual talent could only take them so far. It was their systematic approaches to training, logistics, discipline, and adaptation that transformed ordinary individuals into formidable forces, offering a timeless blueprint for achieving excellence in any field. Applying ancient wisdom today. As we conclude this exploration of history's greatest military forces, let's consider how to apply these lessons in practical ways. The principles that made Roman legionaries, Spartan warriors, Persian immortals, Macedonian soldiers, and Mongol horsemen into peak performers can guide anyone seeking excellence in their field. Here's a framework for applying ancient military wisdom to modern peak performance. Start by assessing your current state honestly. The ancient military forces all began with a realistic evaluation of their soldiers' capabilities. Do the same for yourself. What are your current strengths and weaknesses? What specific capabilities does your goal require? Where are the gaps between your current state and where you need to be? This honest assessment is the foundation for effective development. Next, design a long-term development plan. Remember that all these forces invested years in creating elite warriors. Set realistic timelines for your goals. Break large objectives into smaller milestones. Create a progression that builds capabilities systematically over time. Develop specific training appropriate to your goals. Don't just work hard. Work specifically on the capabilities you need. If you're building a business, what specific skills do you need to develop? If you're an athlete, what physical capabilities are most important for your sport? Design your training to address these specific needs, just as ancient warriors trained for their specific style of combat. Ensure your nutrition supports your performance. You don't need a perfect diet, but you do need adequate calories, sufficient protein, and nutrient-dense foods. Find an approach that works for your lifestyle and provides the fuel your body needs. Build mental toughness through progressive challenges. The ancient warriors became tough by facing hardship regularly. You can do the same by deliberately choosing difficult challenges rather than avoiding them. Push yourself outside your comfort zone regularly. Embrace discomfort as a tool for growth. Develop discipline through consistent habits rather than relying on motivation. Create systems and routines that support excellence. Don't depend on willpower alone. Design your environment and habits to make success easier. Finally, find community and accountability. All these ancient forces built unit cohesion and mutual support. Surround yourself with others pursuing excellence. Create accountability through coaches, mentors, or peer groups. Share your goals and progress with others who will support and challenge you. The path to peak performance hasn't changed fundamentally in thousands of years. It still requires long-term commitment, specific training, proper nutrition, mental toughness, systematic approaches, and supportive community. The ancient warriors understood these principles and applied them to create military excellence. You can apply the same principles to achieve excellence in your field, whatever that may be. The lessons from history's greatest warriors are timeless because they reflect fundamental truths about human performance and potential. Conclusion: the timeless path to excellence. We've journeyed through time to examine 5 of history's greatest military forces, exploring how Roman legionaries, Spartan warriors, Persian immortals, Macedonian soldiers, and Mongol horsemen achieved peak performance in their eras. Each force was unique, reflecting different cultures, resources, and tactical needs. Yet common principles emerge that transcend time and context. Principles that apply to anyone seeking excellence in any field. Peak performance requires long-term commitment and systematic development. It demands training specific to your goals, not just generic hard work. It needs adequate nutrition to fuel your efforts, though the specific diet matters less than meeting basic requirements. It requires mental toughness and discipline built through progressive challenges and consistent habits. It depends on creating systems that support excellence rather than relying on willpower alone. And it benefits from community and accountability that keep you on track and push you to improve. These ancient warriors achieved extraordinary things through the consistent application of these principles. They conquered empires, won legendary battles, and created military legacies that still inspire us thousands of years later. They did this not through superhuman abilities, but through systematic excellence, through training, conditioning, nutrition, mental preparation, and organizational systems that transformed ordinary people into peak performers. Their success demonstrates what's possible when these principles are applied consistently over time. The same path is open to you. Whether you're an athlete pursuing championship performance, an entrepreneur building a business, an artist mastering your craft, or a professional seeking excellence in your field, the lessons from these ancient warriors can guide your journey. Commit to long-term development, train specifically for your goals. Fuel your body properly, build mental toughness through challenges. Create systems that support consistent excellence. Find community and accountability. Apply these timeless principles with the same dedication these ancient warriors brought to their craft, and you too can achieve peak performance. Thank you for joining me on this journey through history. I hope these stories of ancient warriors have inspired you and provided practical wisdom for your own pursuit of excellence. Remember, peak performance isn't about being superhuman. It's about being systematic, consistent, and committed to continuous improvement. The ancient warriors knew this, and now you do too. Until next time, keep pushing toward your peak.